We would like to take you back to when it all began, back to the beginning of the women's suffrage movement in the UK. In the 1860s, the movement began with disappointments and broken promises. This led to a long and slow build-up to the formation of the National Union of Women's Suffrage Society, the NUWSS, or the Suffragists for short. Lots of individual suffrage groups came together during this build-up. Millicent Garrett Fawcett was to become the president of the NUWSS in 1907. She led all the different groups to work together to approach Parliament peacefully. The NUWSS campaigned for universal suffrage, the right for men and women of all ages and classes to vote. They did not consider the fight for women's right to vote as a battle of the sexes. They campaigned through peaceful protest and negotiation and tried to build up relationships with men in the government. Although they kept on being pushed back and let down by Parliament, they continued to peacefully protest. The NUWSS continued to approach all the political parties in the government, but made very little progress. Emmeline Pankhurst grew tired of the NUWSS's soft approach and the lack of progress. She proposed much more drastic measures such as militancy to make Parliament and the public sit up and listen. Some frustrated suffragists were attracted to Emmeline's strong personality and followed her, but she inspired many younger women. In 1903, the Women's Social and Political Union formed. Leadership was centralised and they acted as an army, being directed from the centre. The WSPU, or the Suffragettes for short, were led by Emmeline Pankhurst and her daughter Christabel. The WSPU had dynamism. Their motto was deeds, not words. The two societies disagreed on tactics, but both had a single goal: votes for women. The NUWSS criticised the WSPU for breaking the law, but they were willing to stand together and march together in support of their cause and events that often saw over 250,000 people supporting them on the streets of London. In 1909, Marion Wallace Dunlop was arrested and sent to prison as a common criminal. She went on hunger strike to protest, stating that she was a political prisoner and not a criminal. When 3 further suffragettes tried the same tactic, the prison governor was instructed to force-feed them. Hundreds of women were violently force-fed in prison over the following years. The public could not support this treatment of women, and so in 1913 the government introduced the Cat and Mouse Act. Hunger striking prisoners were released when they were at their weakest, but once they had recovered, were arrested again and sent back to prison to serve their sentence. Suffragettes worked together to hide their sisters, and the police chased them all over the country. As soon as the war with Germany was declared on the 4th of August 1914, the WSPU suspended militancy and got firmly behind the war effort. They were patriotic, encouraging men to enlist and women to go out to work. The pacifist NUWSS stopped their marches and supported women's participation in the war effort, but not the war itself. On the 6th of February 1918, royal assent was given to the Representation of the People Act. It granted some women over 30 and all working class men returning from the trenches the vote. It was a cause for celebration for some, but it did not give young women, working class women, and many women over 30 without property the vote. This also included war widows who had lost their husbands. New women's groups set about to educate women on how to use their vote and campaign for wider women's issues, such as maternity and education. The WSP disbanded, and some of its members formed the Women's Party, with the aim of getting the first woman MP elected to Parliament. The Act did not give in women equal franchise with men, so this remained a fight that was not won for another 10 years. The first woman to enter Parliament in 1919 was Lady Nancy Astor, who had never been a suffragist or a suffragette. She was, however, as good a feminist as anyone. So we're Reside Dance. We're a professional dance group. I'm not going to say company at the moment because we're not quite registered, but we'll get there. And today we did something for Vote 100. So what you saw there today was some key historical moments of the history of women's suffrage, And then we kind of had a discussion with the audience afterwards to say, what do you think of Lord Curzon's 15 good reasons? And then what does it mean for women today? What's women's rights and equalities today in Reading or wherever you're from? And then we want to think about social change, how can we actually change things here? So we've got a year-long programme of events coming up. It's the Vote 100 Reading Community Group who are heading up that, so that's why we're collecting all of these little interviews, because we hope that that's going to shape the programme of events. So that's it in a nutshell, I think.
So we've had, I think, 3 or 4 rehearsals. We've whipped it up really quickly because of the subject, and it's so relevant to all of us as for really strong independent females, working females. It really resonates with us, so it was really easy for inspiration to create what we created, and it's really, I feel like we performed it with a lot of conviction because again it means so much, and it's so amazing to see an audience come out and come and talk to us and give us feedback and say thank you, because obviously it's for all of us, and it's just to keep generating more awareness for equality, for women's rights, and just say thank you again to the women who did protest all those years ago, and the suffering that they had to go through just for us to have the freedom that we have now. So it's really great.